It's obvious. Something happened this week that was reprehensible. 31-year-old father of two, just going around to colleges across America and gives anyone the opportunity to speak. What do you want to talk about? And then this is how I see it. Why don't you see it that way? And that was snuffed out. So how can we make some sense of that? Well, first of all, we're going to go to John 8 because I think that helps to make some sense of that. In John 8, verse 1, it says this: Jesus went to the Mount of Olives, and at dawn he appeared again in the temple courts where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. Does that sound like Charlie Kirk? This is exactly. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery." Now that's a little weird. Caught in the act. What are they doing? Staring through the windows? Breaking down the doors? Peeping Toms? I don't know. But she was caught in the act. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now they're justified in killing her. What do you say? They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him, because they were probably figuring his response, but they didn't get what they thought. Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. There's been speculation about what was that. My suspicion is it was Aiden. And then there was a few things related to Aiden. And then it was Brian. And there's a few things related to Brian. And they probably looked, and Stephen's going, I don't want to do that because he's going to get to me eventually. And so this causes a little bit of an issue. Or maybe he's just simply writing the golden rule, love the Lord your God. I don't know, but it was something and it was obviously related to this. And he said, they kept on questioning. He straightened up and said to them, "Well, let anyone who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." And then he stooped and wrote on the ground again. So he was just in the middle of a thought. And they were there. What do you think? What do you think? He's writing, and it's kind of like, give me a second. And he says, well, here, throw a stone if you're without sin. All those who heard began to go away one at a time. The older ones first. That's interesting. There's something about maybe they had a little bit more wisdom. When only Jesus was left with the woman. So here we are. A crowd that was ready to kill a person is gone. The only person standing there is the prostitute and the woman. And he says, where are they? Has no one condemned you? No one, sir. Then I don't condemn you either, Jesus declared. Go and leave your life of sin. Now there was one person there at that meeting that had the right and the authority and could have thrown the stone and would have been justified to do so by the law of Moses, which, by the way, he said, there will not be one jot nor tittle removed from the law of Moses. I'm not here to destroy the law of Moses. I'm here to fulfill the law of Moses. He had every right to do that. He had every right to say, I'm going to be the executor of all. A woman caught dead to rights. You should be stoned. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. That's the Jesus we love. The Jesus of grace. The Jesus of forgiveness. The message is so, it's almost sweet, isn't it? It just feels good. But we leave out the rest of it. Sin no more. So we got grace, but then we also got truth. Now, I told this before, but this is a true story. A few years ago, they had a hack in a website for cheaters. What was the name of it?
Ashley Madison.
That's it, Ashley Madison. And I had a couple of ladies where I was working said, we need to have an appointment. Well, people wanted to see me all the time. I said, sure, come on up. And they were sitting there. I said, what you need? We're on the list. I said, okay. And I used John 8. I said, first of all, I said, why did you come see me? Well, you just seem like a father figure. Yeah. These were 35-ish women who had signed up to be caught in the act. They were caught in the act. So I went to John 8, and I said, well, there was this time where this gal got caught doing what she was not supposed to do. And the man who really had authority over all this said, well, if you want to throw the rock, go ahead if you haven't sinned. And I will give you the right to do it, but only then. And I said, the only guy who had the right to throw the rock said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to condemn you, but don't go do that anymore. I said, so here's your story. First of all, you're going to have to go home and have a difficult conversation. And that's going to be tough. But be ready. Because if your husband has any degree of honesty, he's probably going to say, I got something I need to tell you too. But the second thing it says is, don't do this no more. Now, the thing about sin is it's like fentanyl. It doesn't take very much at all to create the toehold. And then the toehold creates a foothold. And then the foothold creates a stronghold. And then the next thing you know, you don't even know where you're coming from anymore because you're hooked. Sin creates a notion where you think, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to go shoot a man because I disagree with him. That's the way extreme, right? But you got grace and you got truth. This is the two-edged sword that he said the gospel is sharper than any two-edged sword, because it not only provides forgiveness, but it also expects what? Obedience. I got to say that again. It provides, it guarantees forgiveness, but it expects obedience. Why? Because you're a new creation. You've been transformed. The Holy Spirit's sitting in you going, I got this. Just let me handle it for you. Quit being a knucklehead. What happened this week may very well be, if I may borrow the phrase since he used it, a turning point. A turning point in America. It's an opportunity for a turning point, certainly. On the one hand, we found people celebrating, reveling in it. He got what was coming to him. On the other hand, we had some that are kind of like, let's go to redneck justice. They did it to us, we'll do it to them. And then there was what I would consider the proper, and we're going to tease that out a little bit in a second, where people said, no, this is not going to be, it's going to be responded to in love. So in the story, this is what we got. We got the grace. The grace, we got that. But that's where most people stop the story. How many people want to hear about the Jesus of grace, which is absolutely true, but they kind of start shutting down when it comes to the Jesus of obedience. So now we can create this world where we go, well, Jesus really didn't say anything about homosexuals, whether that was right or wrong as a lifestyle. Does he love them? Yeah. You see, that's the thing, because if you use some of these statements that are biblical, then what happens to you? You're labeled what? A racist, a homophobe, a xenophobe. That's just a fancy word for saying that you let people come in the border without worrying about them. You don't like people that look like you. So Jesus said, don't sin anymore. This is a truth claim. It's an obedience claim. You need to follow me because because what I'm saying is right. But it was in John, it goes way beyond that. Jesus made a most extraordinary claim. He didn't say, follow the truth. He said what? I am the truth. Now, if someone walks up to you on the street and says, hello, who are you? I'm the truth. There's a pretty good chance you're going to do what? You're a little nuts. This is not a simple claim. To make this claim is the most extraordinary, in your face, deal with it. I am the truth. Anything, any action that is taken needs to be filtered through what my perspective is on things, not yours. He went even further. I am the way. I thought all roads lead to Rome. Well, they might, but only one of them doesn't have potholes. And then I am the life. Now, these kinds of statements would have labeled him as a madman, or they would have labeled him as an enemy of the state that had to be taken out if he could validate and justify these. Well, he made probably one of the most extraordinary claims of all, because they were talking about how they were all sons of Abraham, and Abraham was all that in a box of chocolates. Abraham was the big deal, and Jesus gives them a fairly controversial statement. He said, well, before Abraham was, I am. No. This is the way he put it. If you were Abraham's children, then you would do what Abraham did. As it is, you're looking for a way to kill me. Just like they were looking for a way to kill Charlie Kirk. A man who told you the truth that I heard from God. Abraham did not do such things. You are doing the work of your own father. You belong to the devil, and you want to carry out his desires. He was a murderer from the beginning. There is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks his native language. That is a classic statement. That is great. When Satan lies, he speaks his native language. It's what he grew up with. It's his own tongue. He doesn't need it translated to himself. He understands it. He is a liar, and he is the father of lies. And he says you belong to him. Because I tell the truth, you do not believe me. Can you prove me guilty of sin? That sounds eerily similar. Prove me wrong. That was the challenge that Charlie gave to the people. Just prove me wrong. Can you prove me guilty of sin? If I'm telling the truth, why don't you believe me? If I'm telling the truth, why don't you believe me? And the answer is pretty simple. Your truth isn't my truth. We want to turn I am the way, I am truth. We want to turn that into, we like you, Jesus, as a grace guy, the one that's kind of, he doesn't step on our toes. We don't want all these expectations of obedience. No, that's not real. The Bible just teaches love. Love your neighbor and just go on about all your business and do whatever the heck you want to do. Just raise hell and screw it all up and put it in a U-Haul and bring it behind you when you leave this world, and just, because that's what it's all about, right? How much stuff you can put in the U-Haul. And he said, no, it won't work that way. I'm sorry. And when you're confronted with the truth, I don't condemn you, but quit that. Stop. Stupid. And it can't keep going on. Your truth's not my truth. So, when a prayer in Congress was offered 3 days ago, and they said we need to pray for a man that was just assassinated, there was a large group of people that said, no, we won't pray for him because he's a racist and a homophobe and a xenophobe. He's demonized. with false accusations. Who else was demonized with false accusations? Jesus was called a blasphemer. That is the ultimate false accusation. You're calling God a blasphemer for calling himself God. Wow. That's a lie. That's the biggest lie that could ever be told. You're a blasphemer. You cannot make a bigger lie. And of course, we know it was a lie because what? We got him on Friday. There's a problem. There's a problem with movements that are born by God. You can kill the messenger, but the message just keeps on going. Strangely enough, Jesus said, I got to leave this world because you, and he was talking to 12 stupid men, human, just like us. He said, you will go do greater things than I've done. Now, you say, well, he didn't really mean it. Yes, he did. This little movement that Jesus started was in a little bitty place about that big. But Jesus said what? We're about to franchise, fellas. This is going big. And I'm not going to be the one that makes it go big. You will. Light that candle. And it's still going. When Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, the high priest, the highest of the government, the ones who shouted, no, we won't pray. The high priest of the government of Israel said, we need to kill him. We need to kill Jesus because he just raised a man from the dead. And people are going to start following him because people tend to follow people that said, Lazarus, come see me, buddy. And you kind of go, you know what? I kind of like that. Kind of like what this guy's, I kind of like where this guy's coming from. He's got juice that other people ain't got. And they decided, well, we're going to have to kill him because it is better for one man to die to protect the power that we have in our, in other words, this isn't about truth. This is about power. In John 11, it says this, many of the Jews who had come to visit Mary and had seen what Jesus did believed in him, but some of them went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. He doesn't bother to tell you what Jesus had done because he just did it. There was this dead man. He came out of a tomb and he was wrapped in these clothes that he didn't stink. It was fairly weird. Then the chief priest called a meeting of the Sanhedrin, the court for the Jews. What are we accomplishing? Here is this man performing many signs. If we let him go on like this, everyone will believe in him. If we let Charlie keep talking, people are going to start following him. And then the Romans will come and take away both our temple and our, see, there's the motivation. The Romans will come and take away our temple and our nation. I don't give a tinker's darn about what's right and what's wrong. What I care about, you like that, didn't you?
I did. That was good.
What I care about is you not going to take my power. Because if I don't believe in truth, if I don't believe there's a standard that I reach for, if I don't believe that I should obey the person who said I am the truth, then what I try to do is I take my power to make truth. I get to make truth, not you. And the truth is held up or sustained by the power. That's exactly what he said. They'll come and take away both our temple and our nation. Then one of them named Caiaphas. Well, he was not just named Caiaphas. Who was Caiaphas? The big kahuna, the dude, the high priest. He said, you know nothing. He called them all a bunch of idiots. You do not realize it is better for one man to die for the people than that the whole nation perish. And here, this is so beautiful because this is propaganda wrapped as truth. One man did die for the whole nation.
Yeah.
You get the irony? This is amazing. It is better for one man to die for the people than the whole nation. But because his thinking was in terms of power, we're going to lose the power. Kill him. We're going to lose our stranglehold on this group of people that we've always been able to count and put in our pocket. And that's not happening anymore. Kill him. When you try to cause truth to be quiet, it has a stubborn way of resurrecting, literally. When they tried the martyrs in the Roman Colosseum, it gets a little weird when before they would let them into the Colosseum to be attacked by lions. That, can you imagine sitting in the crowd, bloodthirsty, waiting for this spectacle, and you can hear both the prayers and the songs of the people? That'd be a little hard to take. We talked a long time ago, we talked about the missionaries who had been in Japan. They had to leave Japan due to World War II about to start, and they went to the Philippines. They thought that would be a safe place. Well, we all know that eventually Japan and the Philippines kind of got familiar with each other. And they found the missionaries in the Philippines, and they said, we will give you, first of all, they went in and killed their kids. And then they came back and said, we're going to kill you. And they said, give us 20 minutes to pray. And they did. And they still killed them. What does it tell you about your heart? When it's that black, that you can simply say, you need to die because your message is so dangerous to us. But that's not the rest of the story, because if you remember the story, those missionaries impacted the particular person who had planned the attack on Pearl Harbor. And he saw what Christ had done in their lives. And he realized that that was not fakeable. And so the guy who planned the attack on Pearl Harbor became an evangelist for God. An old pastor used to say God could hit a home run with a crooked stick on a curveball. That's a countrified way of saying all things work together for good for those that love the Lord. So they killed the Savior. They did. They succeeded. But when they did, they launched a movement that right now is a turning point that may be about to explode. College campuses, we said this a while back, have been waking up.
Yeah.
You're seeing revival on many of these campuses. Now, there's a fire. They've already, I don't know exactly how many, but there are hundreds of new Turning Point on campus as a result of killing the head. If you've watched TV the last few days, you saw newscasters, you saw podcasters, you saw people with audiences of millions talking unashamedly on national TV about their faith and about Charlie Kirk's faith. When does that happen? When? When have the people of God had enough guts? Just put it out there. He took a water. There was this dude. he straight up said, look, I'm not religious. He said, and the reason I'm not religious is because the people that have been religious crapped on me. My response to him would be, you're blaming math because I can't add. You're mixing up the messenger and the message. But I understood where he was coming from, because he was just throwing it out there. And he said, but that man, and he said, I met him one time or two times. He said, but that man displayed a faith that I don't understand. And I wish I knew more about it. And then if you saw the mother, or sorry, the wife, talking into the camera, telling America and the world he had no idea what they had done. You have no idea what you turned loose. Now, at this point, my detractors might say, whoa, wait a minute. You're going too far when you say that there were those who wanted, that there were they, talking in multiples. This was just some lone wolf, knothead. He probably needed a little psychiatric help. Well, first of all, we know this. He's dating a man who's turning into a woman. I don't know if he's going to break up with her when she gets there. And I don't mean that facetiously, but it's that confused. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, exactly what is it that you... Because if she becomes a man and you're dating a woman, now what? But that's what's reported. Isn't he just a lone wolf? I mean, isn't he just psychologically touched? Well, they just did a study not that long ago. And they asked people to, first of all, self-describe themselves. Do you identify as left or far left? Or do you identify as right? Now, that in itself would be a little bit problematic, because most people are probably going to consider themselves to be more rational than what they are, but nevertheless. The people who decided that they lean left, far left, nearly 50% said that there would be justification of murder of Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And nearly 60% said it was acceptable to destroy Tesla dealerships. This would be people who identify as far left. Your own eyes and ears tell you the same thing. If you turned on the internet, you didn't have to look very far to find somebody celebrating the death of a person who did nothing except go to college campuses and talk to people. Teachers have been removed. That's so disturbing. Because the one place that you ought to be able to send your kid and not worry about them coming home with their head filled full of mush would be to the school. Firefighters, Secret Service, government workers, professors, newscasters, PR men for sports teams canned because their response to this was a celebration. Southern University, striking close to home, had an incident that was shared. The post that was written said, I will 1000% wish death on people like him. He is the epitome of evil. I have no compassion, not even a minute ounce of it, for people like him who go around spewing hate the way he does. In contrast, Jesus says, you may have spewed hate, I don't condemn you, provided you do what? You recognize that I am the truth, and then you try to be obedient. Spewing hate. When you work at a law school, you're supposed to have an education. When you don't realize you are spewing hate while denouncing the spewing of hate, I don't know what to tell you. Those people who responded that they would justify killing as a means to an end, it's a concern that their thinking is becoming the norm. This is a war of worldviews. This is, where does truth come from? It either comes from an objective standard or it comes from power. And if the power is being threatened by something or someone who steps in that can lean against that power, then you will be justified in taking them out. Because it is better for one man to die than we lose our temple and we lose our government. Where did it start? Well, a former president noted that Christians cling to their guns and their religion. A former candidate described a group of people within the United States as a basket of deplorables. A former president called these same people dregs of society. The dreg is what's at the bottom of the barrel when there's nothing else. It's the junk that falls to the bottom. Their party has two main planks in their platform. The first one would be LGBTQ rights. The second would be abortion up to and including anytime, any place. So here's what we want to do. We want to directly challenge the truth that says God created male and female, He created them in their image, and provided a means by which God can bless the family. Or we can say, no, I believe that Johnny should be in Jane's bathroom. Because Johnny today has decided that he's a Jane. LGBTQ, but now what has especially been latched onto is the T, the transgender. We talked about that. A gentleman named Money, of all things, did the first studies on transgenders, created a surgery, manufactured all of his data, manipulated these kids, both of them go out and commit suicide. That's the basis of gender fluid. It doesn't sound like go sin no more. Don't do that. The second thing is the taking of innocent life in the womb. What we know about science now tells us 98% of biologists, in a worldwide survey, it was like 2,000 biologists said, when does life begin? And they said, when? Conception. I don't want to take biology from the other 2%. Sperm and egg, half the information, half the information. They come together. They create 46 chromosomes. Those 46 chromosomes are unique. They're not the mother's. And that begins to develop. And somebody says, well, it's not alive. Well, how can it continue to increase in complexity and be dead? That doesn't sound like death to me. Death does not create complexity. Life creates complexity. My point is this. To see this worldview in place, in your face, and then to suggest I can still support that particular party is what got Charlie Kirk killed. Because he was trying to point out, I'm not against the people in the party, I'm against the stance the party's taking. And he did it primarily from a Christian perspective, which says, I am the way, the truth, the life. Well, anybody that says that, as we've discovered, you're really just, you hate homosexuals, you want a white rule power structure that doesn't allow for immigration. You're a bigot, you're a fascist, and those are all reasons to take you out. So we've got four camps here, about four. First of all, it's the radical left who says there is no truth. If truth is power, power is what I can impose, power creates truth. That sounds suspiciously like Marxism. It is exactly the same thing, couched in a different thing. Many of the people who say that probably don't even realize that they are espousing Marxist principles. But the Marxist deal is you are victimized, you have been held back, and it's going to take a revolution. And it's not only is it acceptable, it is necessary to fulfill the transfer of power to create. It is Marxism. That's the first one. The second one is the counter of that. And I'm going to just call this the redneck conservative, who uses the same vile language that the left is using, talking about, I'm going to take you out, you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Apologies to Yul Brynner. You get my point? I mean, they're on the thing, and they start talking about a man who says, I follow the truth, and their language is nothing more except revenge. You know, I don't have to explain. You know it. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is not the proper response. But the people who only saw him in political perspective would say, well, you know, this is a way to handle it because they're trying to take away my power. I don't want my power taken away. I'll fight fire with fire. And then there's the proper response. Truth is worth fighting for. Truth is worth dying for. You cannot dance with the devil unless you bring a quarter for the jukebox. The devil ain't paying. The cost is all yours. The further you get from the truth in some odd, weird, warped way, the further the truth seems to be true. You therefore wake up this morning and decide, the best thing I can do is go shoot a man. When Erica Kirk was giving her presentation, she realized that it's a spiritual battle first and foremost. It's a battle for the soul and the mind. The thing that Charlie Kirk did so beautifully was he engaged the mind while also protecting the soul. He said this is where it has to come from. It has to come from a source of truth. You can't just make this stuff up. You can't be Jane today and Jimmy tomorrow. And that infuriated people. Now, I can identify as a UPS driver, but they won't give me a brown truck. And it infuriated people when he said that marriage is an institution that was created by God in order to establish a proper family structure. And that man is made in God's image. And as such, all people, let me be perfectly clear, all people, regardless of whatever you believe, have the ultimate dignity of being born and created in the image of God. This is not about pointing fingers at somebody and saying, if you do that, you are the Pharisees pointing at the prostitute. This isn't about self-righteousness. This is about truth. And it's about trying to bring that truth to the people and then saying, okay, now that you know, don't do that anymore. And she recognized this is a spiritual battle. C.S. Lewis said this one time. He's a pretty smart dude. He said, the devil seeks the very abolition of man. For in the face of every human being, he sees Christ. He doesn't see that person. He sees someone made in the image of God, and by God, that needs to be destroyed. So let me, we mourn for Charlie. We mourn for the family. Let me say this kind of provocatively and then explain it. I don't want to pray for Charlie. Charlie's already where he's going to go. There ain't no prayer going to help Charlie now, because where he's at, he doesn't need anymore. He doesn't need anymore. That's exactly right. What I pray for is the cause that Charlie embraced, the passion with which he embraced it, the ability to communicate to those people who would question, to interact, to engage, to be light in a world that's dark, to be salt in a world that needs salt. That's what I pray for. In with this. Kierkegaard was a Danish theologian, philosopher. Reading him is kind of like trying to swim in Motorall. It's free. But he said this, and it's profound. He said, when a tyrant dies, his rule ends. But when a martyr dies, his rule begins. The ultimate martyr died on a Friday. His rule began on a Sunday, when it was found out real quick, you didn't kill him. You didn't kill the movement. You didn't do anything except light a candle. May Charlie Kirk's life and death light a candle in us and in the people that we touch. And don't let that candle die, because it's real easy to get wrapped up in whether LSU should have run the ball or burned down. And the next thing you know, you're screaming and hollering and cussing at the TV. Lost your John Brown mind because we got caught up in something that's unimportant and replaced the sacred with the very much not sacred. Amen?
Amen.
Father, we thank you for Charlie Kirk. We thank you for his life, his influence. We thank you that he recognized truth and the source of truth and tried to obey the source. This is not rocket science, but it sure is important. The opportunity to be your servant is given to all of us. We are not condemned, but we are also told, don't do that anymore. Obedience. May we be obedient to your calls, to your spirit, and ultimately to the world and the word. And by doing that, honor you. It's in your Son's name we pray.